I've got an incredible young real estate agent who started very early on, got his license in the middle of COVID, featured recently as a rising star in the Real Producers magazine, and has an incredible story that by writing things down, things manifest and come to a reality. Even being on this podcast, you don't want to miss this one. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Justin Ford Podcast, where I'll be releasing life-changing principles and valuable information focused on all things faith, finance, family, fitness, real estate, and so much more. Let's go! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Justin Ford Podcast. Super excited to be with you here again today, and I hope you've been doing great since our last episode. If you're loving the show, do me a favor, go ahead and hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. If you're loving the show, leave us a review. We'd love to hear the feedback from all of you that are listening, and if you haven't followed me yet, you can at the official Justin Ford, again, at the official Justin Ford. And before we get into another great episode, I do want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Next Door Lending. Next Door Lending is a team of professionals that believe everyone should be treated as if they live next door. The founders and team members have more than 150 years of combined loan experience, helping clients all over the country choose the best loan program to help you accomplish your goals. Next Door Lending is currently licensed in over 24 states and has a team of over 100 loan officers specializing in helping you get the best rate and terms. And so whether you're looking to refinance your home or you're looking to purchase your next home, call my friends over at Next Door Lending today at 888-885-3667 or visit their website at nextdoorlending.com. As you know, when we bring guests onto the show, it's because they have a story to tell and they've created some success in their life that we believe is going to encourage you, the listener. And so I've actually got a special guest in the studio, but I've also got my sidekick and my better half in the studio here on the Justin Ford Podcast. Welcome, Joy Ford, and our special guest, Shane Atkinson. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Justin. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, thanks for having me too. This is awesome. Never be on the Justin Ford one.
You know, it's weird. We talked about twisting the plot and bringing Joy on to a Justin Ford podcast, and those of you that are listening are probably like, what the heck's going on with the two different avenues of the podcast, right? But, you know, Joy and I have actually gotten a chance to know Shane and get to know Shane over the last couple of years and really see you, Shane, you know, kind of get into the industry and now become super successful and recently passing your broker exam and becoming a brand new real estate broker. Congratulations, my friend.
Correct. Thank you so much.
That's
I
awesome,
appreciate
man.
that.
That's awesome. And so I was trying to remember before the show started, how did we officially meet? Do you remember when we first met or how we met?
You know, I think that we actually met at the event. It was one of the
Glover U?
One of the Glover
Probably
U events.
Traverse City.
It was Traverse City.
It was Traverse City. Okay.
Talking to you.
On the beach, actually, I believe is when we met for the first time.
Oh yeah, because it was the VIP or the welcoming party.
It was the welcoming party
when everybody's out there having a good time. And man, isn't that such a
David
beautiful
Daly
city?
then there?
I think David Daly was there with his guitar.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what, 2 or 3 years ago?
Was it 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Was that when I spoke? Did you see me speak at that event, or was it the one that I hadn't spoken
You're
at?
speaking at every event now.
But do you remember hearing me speak, and then we connected after that, or when?
I believe that was the one. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it was. Yes, because I know after we started talking too, we found out that you're also you grew up in Taylor, just like myself, and then we just kind of branched off and
just really started to connecting
from there,
which is awesome.
And I've only met Shane at the events. That's the only time I ever see you.
Yeah.
And I see that I like watch some of your videos, that your content you're putting out there. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I need to get on the Shane level.
My gosh, it's a constant work in progress. You know what I mean? You always. And I'm sure you guys probably do this too. You look at things when you first started, maybe the podcast, you're like, oh, back then I didn't know about this, or I would have done this better, or, got this lighting, this microphone, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But, I mean, obviously not with a studio like this, but, just, starting to build something out, anything in the beginning is going to be a little bit rocky, but it's like that constant, tweak and improvement on the small things that I think ends up putting it back together. So things that I made a year ago that I'm like, oh my God, I think this is incredible. It's a great video. I look back now and I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I'm like, I would never post this now. So,
well, what's cool is I remember when you were first starting to do video, we were at the Real Producers event.
Yeah.
That was probably about a year and a half ago, maybe even a little bit longer. That was the one that was in Royal Oak, I believe.
Yeah, it was at Fifth Ave.
Fifth Ave, and I was on a panel that night, and you and I had run into each other at that event. And what was cool is you were talking about how you wanted to be featured in the Real Producers magazine as a rising star.
I did.
Right? And I'm like, well, I think I can make that happen because I'm really well connected to Tara, the publisher of the local magazine here for Wayne County, Oakland County, I believe Macomb County and Grand Rapids. And I said, I'm going to put in a good word for you. And then all of a sudden, as we're talking, she walks in, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Let me introduce you. And introduced you, and not too long ago, you were actually featured in the Real Producers magazine.
Yeah, it was in June of 2023.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for making that connection. Shout out Tara.
Yeah.
Taking over the Real Producers game in the area.
She is. She's awesome.
That's awesome.
But they don't just take my word for it, right? Obviously, I can have a say, but you've obviously put in the work, and you've created a real estate business that was worth featuring as a rising star. So let's talk about that. When did you actually get into real estate?
I would say if you want the actual answer or the licensed answer, I'll give you both of those. So during the '08 crash, my dad actually got in with a partner, and they ended up rehabbing a house for the first time.
Yeah.
And during that process, he kind of saw what real estate could do for himself and, our family. And my dad's been a huge impact on my life. All my family has, my mom, my brother. And it was kind of something that we took on together. Like, I would be at the houses just cleaning. My mom and dad would be there constantly, like trying to get this house ready. And then he just kind of progressed off there. 1 turned into 2, turns into 4, turned into 8. And I couldn't even count and tell you how many there are now. I don't know. Wow. I'm sure if he sat down, he could figure that number out. But
it's amazing.
I kind of grew up in that environment of just being a laborer. All throughout high school, I was cleaning out these houses, doing like the worst parts of rehabbing, drywall.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Asbestos style, whatever.
Yeah. All the nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah. All the stuff that you wouldn't want to do. And just kind of learning, I don't know if you'd want to call it a trade, but kind of learning the process of it there.
Yep.
And when I graduated high school, I was like, I can't work for my dad anymore. I can't do this. I love my
I'm done. I'm out of here, Dad.
Burnt out. So I ended up getting a sales job at Verizon. And during that process, I actually was able to just kind of save and purchase my first house when I was 20 back in December 2016. Yeah. And then after that, we ended up, me and my dad partnered on a house, flipped one, and then I did one by myself too. And I'm looking at doing I guess you call it my 4th one now.
Nice.
If the opportunity presented itself, I would definitely jump on it.
He came back to Dad. He's like, I'm no longer a laborer, but we can be partners.
And then I went right back into laboring again.
There's always laboring, right? It's always
for your own.
Yeah.
It's to save, right? You're going to put it out there.
And you knew what you were doing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely a big piece of that too. Yeah. I mean, he's taught me everything about that process.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Him and my mom would kind of team up. My mom would be like the design aspect part of things. He would be like, just kind of make whatever her vision was come to life.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd butt heads on what they thought would work, and then whatever my mom said would always be done. It would turn out great.
It's a family business. I love it.
She knew.
Definitely. Oh yeah, she has an eye for that kind of thing.
Well, what's cool is, you purchasing a home when you're 20 years old. I mean, most people don't purchase, their first home until a lot after that. And so by having the, the experience and the exposure at such a young age, it's awesome that you were able to do that right out of the gate.
Yeah, it was not something I really expected, but I got to give it up to them again. It's just being instilled in saving money and working towards that. I've always had a knack for sales. It's always what I knew I wanted to do. Yeah. I never thought it'd be real estate. Yeah. But sales is something that I thought that I would get into when I was older. Yeah. Just because, as you know, too, the possibilities. There's so many different avenues that you can take a sales position.
I always say sales is a vehicle. You just got to find out which one you want to drive.
Yeah, it's true.
Great quote.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting licensed in 2020 after I left Verizon. And, that's actually when I became an agent. Yeah. And
2020?
In 2020.
Wow.
That's the best year to get licensed, right?
Big year.
Yeah. The day that I actually finished the course, I scheduled my test for that Monday. Yeah. Everything shut down.
Wow. Couldn't even take your test.
Couldn't even take my test.
How long did it take until you could actually take the test?
Every couple of days I would reschedule it and they'd cancel it.
Wow. Because nobody knew what was going on. That was crazy.
Right.
No, I actually had to schedule it in like Lansing or like Jackson. I think it was Lansing actually that I had to drive to, and you know, they were the only ones open. Like between us and Ohio, I think.
Wow.
Was in Lansing. So I drove up there. I had to wait till June to actually do it, and then that's when I actually passed. Because prior to that, I actually took it twice and I failed. It was on the third time.
So it's the third time,
passed.
okay.
Yeah, third time's the charm.
Yeah, third time is a charm.
Not for me.
7 for joy.
7 times a charm.
Seventh time was a charm. But I always tell people, especially new agents, like, hey, study for the test, do your best, but don't beat yourself up if you don't pass it, because most people don't pass it on their first try. No. It's a tough test.
It is.
And when you try to go back and take it, it's not the same test. There's, I think, 4 variations of the test. So it's not like you can just go back and say, oh, this is the one I got wrong. This. They get you on that, and they purposely try to spin it around. And I'm like, they don't do that in regular real estate. Why do they do that on the test?
Yeah, they try to trick you.
They do try to trick you.
Joy, don't feel bad. I actually asked them when I was there because, I got to know. I'm like, hey, what's the most times you've ever seen somebody take a test?
Like it's Joy Ford.
42.
42 times?
Yes.
Somebody took it 42 times.
Somebody took it 42 times.
Talk about
That's
commitment.
about
and
not giving up.
That's diligence right there.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. They better
7,
have closed
14,
a
21, 28,
pretty
because it's
big
about
deal to get that money
75.
back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like $5,000 in test fees.
I hope they passed.
Yeah.
I would like to know who that person was. Wow. I hear that, and they must have a story.
Get them on the pod.
Right.
Jeez.
Who took the real estate test in Michigan?
The Guinness Book of World
times?
Records for taking the real estate test 42 times. Welcome so-and-so to the show.
It's not
That's
me.
funny. That's funny.
for sure.
But you took it. You knew you were going to get your real estate license. You passed the test. What happened next?
Then it's just you get the stamp, you passed, and now it's like, all right, what do I do from here?
Yep.
So I actually we went we're during the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's
it's crazy.
no one's open, no one's even really interviewing agents or anything like that.
Right.
It was,
Yep.
and even during that, I'm past the class, I'm just waiting to take my test, and I ended up connecting with actually my aunt's neighbor, my friend Charlie and Jessica, actually on Instagram. We ended up becoming friends.
Yep.
Over the internet, like many people do nowadays. But we did have an in-person connection for that though. And then I actually went to their brokerage at Adobe.
Adobe, yeah. That's where you started, right?
I started at Adobe.
Okay.
You knew Amy Dunlap, right? Because Amy was there. Yep.
Yep, me and Amy met at Adobe.
Yep.
Great brokerage. Was looking for something a little bit closer, and now I'm at good company. And I've been there since 2021, April 2021.
Wow, that already
Almost 3 years.
3 years,
Yep.
over 3 years. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I don't know about you guys, the time's flying nowadays.
It is.
It's I swear, it's like a blink.
You look at COVID, right? There's this before and after, and I feel like COVID just came in and just disrupted everything. But it's crazy to think
definitely did.
Yeah, but I mean time and everything, because when you think back, it's been 4 years
Since then. Yeah,
since
you're
then,
right.
and it's just crazy how fast time is going.
I don't know. Ever since I was 22, though, it's just been a blink, and I think it's going to get faster.
And it does.
Yeah.
Everybody you talk to.
No, it is. And I remember saying,
Crazy.
them saying that when we were younger, as you get older, time goes faster. And what's interesting is time never goes faster. We just get busier, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're more occupied. Because when you're a kid and you're just hanging out or you're going to school, time seems like it's taking forever.
Yeah.
But when you're busy and you're ripping and running and you're focused and you're building your career and
That's
your
mostly
life.
the age where you're building stuff is what, your 30s, 40s?
No, I'd say, because how old are you, Shane?
I'm 28.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
late
in your
20s, 30s, you're
in your 20s, yeah.
That's why it's so busy, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're building towards, your future, which obviously you're doing, because you were at Adobe. Now you're at good company, and now you just passed your broker's test. What's the reason why you decided to do that? Because I know that's an option. I have my broker's license as well. What made you go down that path?
I think that there's a lot of benefits to having your broker's license.
Yep.
Well, there's tax benefits to that.
Yep.
There is a level of, I feel respect that you give your clients, because it's the highest level of education that you can reach being a real estate agent.
Real estate agent, yep.
There's not a lot of things that you can do to elevate yourself as far as an education-wise, unless you do, classes, coaching, or I think being, a real estate broker. So
Right.
I just think that in respect to those sorts of things, and especially with the real estate industry changing now, and we're going into this time period where, the industry is being shaken up, I just think that there's no better thing to convey to your clients that what to do during the process is saying, hey, I've taken this extra step. I'm actually a broker. I can start a brokerage. I can employ people I've wanted to.
Right. And I'm held to a higher standard too.
And you're held to a much higher standard. I just think that it's definitely something that I want to do, since I started in this process. Was because I didn't even, I knew I was going to pass the real estate test, but I'm a bad test taker. Daniel Tosh has a joke, and it goes, I hate when people say they're a bad test taker. You mean the part where we find out what you actually know.
Right, exactly.
So-
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
And that's kind of always how I felt about things. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I knew I was going to eventually prevail.
Yeah.
And I bet you I was going to beat 42 times too. Yeah. But
Oh gosh.
It's good to know that, right? Because if you do it in 3, you're like, at least I wasn't that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, you have to have a ceiling for yourself.
Yeah. And I always tell people, because I know Joy got discouraged, I think after the 3rd time, and she said, well, maybe I'm just not meant to be a real estate agent. I said, no, maybe you just need to study a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
and
kidding.
did.
I mean, I wasn't giving her a hard time.
I
but
know he's right. I had to do index cards. I had to listen to the video. I had to do the quizzes all day. I just felt like I couldn't live my life unless I studied all day, every day. He's like, we having dinner tonight? I'm like, I'm not sure. Can you pick up dinner? Because I'm still studying. So like, I don't even, I feel like I have to study all day. I can't do anything else. Can't do laundry. Can't do anything because I have to study.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to like,
and I think,
and then finally passed it. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's a commitment, right? It's a commitment to accomplish something, which obviously, you've been committed to do, getting into real estate in the middle of COVID.
Yep.
And here you are 4 years later. And you were, again, recently featured in the Real Producers magazine for a Rising Star. What were the qualifications, right? When you sat down with Tara and you talked to her, like, what were some of the qualifications? Because they don't let just everybody be featured in the magazine. What were some of the qualifications that got you in there?
Strong recommendation from Justin Ford.
There it is, folks. If you want to be in...
No, it was a pretty intensive interview process. I was actually surprised on how many questions I actually had.
It's a lot.
Put you through an initial interview over Zoom. It lasts about an hour where they start asking you questions, and then there's also a follow-up questionnaire too, which you have to answer a lot of questions and actually a lot of thought-provoking things about yourself too, which I was like, oh my gosh, I've never even thought about this. So,
wow.
They go through that process, and then you go through the photos, and then the actual article that's put together. So it was cool to see the back end of things and how the magazine articles actually work because from the outside you just think this person took photos, wrote something, and then they were in a magazine, but there's a lot more steps to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also remember last year too, maybe it was 2 years ago, you had reached out to me and said, hey, can I take you to lunch? And we went out to lunch, and one thing that I was really impressed with about you, Shane, was things that you had goals for. We talked about this, right? Like, hey, I have goals that I want this type of car, I want this type of success, I want to be on this magazine, like all of these things. And you were 100% committed to attracting those things into your life or getting very clear. The Bible says, write down the vision and make it plain. Like, get clear on what it is that you ultimately want to accomplish so it's in front of you. You feel it, you see it. How has that helped you to get to where you are right now?
I've actually never, some of my close family and friends have talked to about this, but I've never really voiced kind of my opinion on the way that I feel about goals.
Yeah.
And, I coach wrestling and I kind of preach this thing too. So I guess if you want to count that, I've really preached this to kids, but I am 100% confident that whatever you write down and just affirm to yourself that you can make happen.
Yeah.
And I have so many examples of it too. Like the first time that it happens to you, it's going to feel like it's a coincidence.
Right.
And then you're going to start looking for things that, oh, well, it only happened because of this, because of that. But then 5, 6, 7 times, I'll tell you what, this podcast itself, I had made a Canva template for a banner on my Facebook that included the logo for this podcast 2 years ago.
Our podcast?
This podcast.
Are you serious?
When it first started
I
and
have,
you were like, didn't know what we were doing.
I have proof of that. I have the timestamps on Canva. I can show you
that
this.
you were going to be on the podcast.
Can you send it to us? I would love to see this. This is
no. So when we invited you, you already knew this was going to happen because you already wrote it down.
He wrote it down.
There's a quote that
so good.
He goes by Charlie Rocket that he says, it's already happened. Time just hasn't caught up.
I love that.
See, I know I hear from God because I was like, let's have Shane, but that's so awesome to hear it because then I feel like we're so in tune.
And there's so many things that, like, I have proof of me thinking about happening too. Like another one too. When I was in high school, one of my goals was to make it to states in wrestling, and I had this vision that I kept seeing over and over of me getting a win, jumping into my dad's arms, and in my head that was a state final.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I'll disclose to people too is that the way that you see the vision in your head sometimes isn't
always
the way
how
that it plays out
100%.
in real life.
Yeah.
It'll happen, but it might not be the same context.
Right.
And I had that actually happen. Like, I've seen the vision clear as day a few times, and then it actually happened in real life, and I have a video. It's like one of the craziest experiences to have that and then have it happen in real life and being able to watch it back on a video is nuts. But so many different things in my life I've thought about.
It's the power of imagination. and intentionality of what it is that you want.
Yeah, I think that's so huge because, especially to like people think like law of attraction. It's like I want $1 million, and it's just $1 million.
Yeah,
delivered.
Yeah.
If you want to just to make it a plain thing, we'll say law of attraction. But it really is the working towards the goal that is what attracts what you want to into your life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not, you can't just ask for it then sit. You have to put forth the effort. I feel like in life you're rewarded by the effort that you put into something.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's 100%. Because you can have, even the Bible says faith without works is dead. You can have all the faith you want to be on the cover of a magazine or be on the podcast or have this car or this girl or whatever. And if you don't actually go out and do the things necessary to get that, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And so I love that because I think a lot of people do set a goal or, oh, I'm going to track this, or if I just believe it and spin around 3 times and clap my hands, like it's going to eventually come. No, it's actually getting clear on what you want and moving towards that. And so that's powerful. So speaking of that, what's on your board for things to come in real estate? Like what's your goal? What's your vision? What do you want to accomplish 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now?
I try to think long term, but I also try to think in what's coming up too.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what my strategy is going to be in 20 years.
Right.
I don't, of course, I envision myself in real estate, but I guess when I think to it, I have a vision board. I also have a goal list for the year too. Being invited on a sit down podcast is hanging on my wall in my office right now.
I love that.
That was on my 2024 goal list. So it just goes to prove there's what you write down, you confirm in your mind that it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would like to own 100 units, 500 units.
Commercial buildings.
Yep.
I'd like to get into commercial real estate if we're talking 20 years down the line. I just see that being the route that I take too.
Yeah.
Owning a brokerage would be cool in the future. I'd love to be able to do that.
Yep.
And provide, the same sort of like, I guess, training and things that have taken me over the last couple of years to learn, whether it be sales or in real estate. It's an ever-evolving goal, I feel like.
It is.
I have a direction that I want to go in, but I don't have something extremely specific yet.
Right. And I love what you said, too, because this is so powerful, is nothing ever works out exactly the way you envision it. And I heard this, somebody said this on Chuck Pierce's thing. He says, sometimes we get so attached to a vision or prophetic word or how we think something's going to happen that we don't make room for it to not exactly work out that way. So if we don't see something working out exactly the way it should be, we might miss how it's supposed to be. And so I love that you said that, because that's so key, especially for people who are pursuing success or have a vision or want to accomplish something that it may not always happen exactly how you envision it, but at least you have the target and you know what you're moving towards.
Yeah, and there's like a level of discipline too. Like it's not just a wish for and wait sort of thing. It has to be an active pursuit of whatever that goal is.
Yeah.
It's everything has to be done in motion. It's not going to come to you if you're sitting still.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. And it just reminds me of like one of my goals or visions is to own some commercial space and commercial buildings. And so I said, I want to one day, know that we're owning some buildings, but I said it, but it's like, now I need to be in motion. Now we need to connect with the right people. Now I need to start reading this one book that the person told me to read. Okay, I need to start doing that. And then just putting things in place, right? And acting on it. Not just sitting wishing, like, how is this? It's not going to just happen overnight. You've got to put things in place and start moving towards the goal, which is so true.
I love that. And so what is your goal, your short-term goal for this year, for 2024? Like, how many homes do you want to sell? How much money do you want to make?
I would like to. I'll give you what's written on the board.
Yeah.
Right. I have $6 million on the board.
Nice.
Right now.
Yeah.
And I'm on pace for that right now.
That's awesome.
I don't like to give a amount of homes sold because I feel like the volume is an easier number for my brain to conceptualize than a number of houses per se. Yeah,
because you just sold, I think, a condo in Plymouth. What was it, last year, 2 years ago, for what,
$1.349 million.
$1.349 million.
Was it downtown?
It was downtown across from Kellogg, and
nice.
Tying these two topics that we were on together.
Yeah,
I wrote down in a journal. I have it dated.
Yeah,
I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
it says that somebody's going to call me and going to want to sell $1 million property.
Yeah,
in 2023 or 4.
I think this was back in 2021 that I wrote this down. And the way that the condo happened is it almost doesn't sound real.
Right.
I was in my office sitting down making follow-up calls.
Yeah.
I got a call on the phone from a number that I didn't recognize, and I answered it. And she says, "Hey, I'd like to see your condo." And I'm like, "Okay, what condo would you like to see?" And she goes, "The one in downtown Plymouth, they're not built yet. What information do you have about it?" And I was like, "Well, hey, can you give me the address first?" I was like, I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right information. Can I have the address? I'll follow up with the builder. Let me see, what I can put together.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I get on my computer, I start looking up. I'm like, oh my God, this condo's $1 million. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So then I call the builder. They're not going to be done yet. It's not a first floor suite like they wanted.
Right.
And ended up, they were like, nah, we're not going to go with that house.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, fine. So I was like, do you mind if I just send you houses in Plymouth? And if something comes up, like we can go take a look. And she was like, sure.
Yeah.
So I keep sending properties. They're all like 500, 600, 700,000. They're like, no, ugly, won't work.
Right.
Bad house, bad taste. And then finally this one popped up in Mayflower.
Yeah.
And
I
sent it to her, and she was like, let's take a look at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I had no proof of funds. I didn't know who the person was.
Right.
And ended up being a great client of mine now. They're awesome people.
Yeah.
And we took a look at the property with the agent at the time, and she goes, all right, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
Just right there, like right after we got done with the showing.
Yeah.
It's like, we want to buy it. Let's think about it. Call me back later that evening. We wrote the offer, got accepted.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And so what I hear you saying is there is power in writing things down.
Yes.
Extremely.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
good.
Yeah. That's awesome. How can people get a hold of you? Let's say somebody's listening right now, Shane, and they're an agent. They want to connect with you. Or let's say they are a buyer or a seller and want to get to know you more and maybe use you as a real estate agent. How can people get a hold of you?
Best way, everybody's on social media nowadays. Instagram, at my name, it's Shane Atkinson _. TikTok, it's Shane Atkinson _ On Facebook, it's just my name.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be happy to connect with anybody that wanted to reach out.
That's awesome.
Shane, I just want to let you know we got these made for you today.
Oh, did you really?
Put these here just for you.
Yeah.
Incredible.
No, it's with Speakeasy Podcast. They have this here for Speakeasy.
Speakeasy, but it's also Shane. I love that. Well, Shane, we're excited that you were able to come on the show and share some of your story. We're going to have you back. I know today was limited on time, but there's more to your story that we would love to hear. And even being a wrestling coach. And
I know. He coaches at Allen Park, where my sister's kids go.
You know her nephew?
I don't think she knows that. I think he does high school, and our kids are not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, he's coming. He'll be in high school next year.
Ricky
and you'll know Manny as well.
Hey, I'll take him.
He's
on
a
the
wrestler.
Team.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, Shane, we appreciate you being on the show. I'm super proud of you, man, and I know it's just the beginning for you. 28 years old, super polished, super focused, and the best is yet to come for you, bro.
Justin, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on. Joy, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Honestly, it's been a pleasure to speak with you guys today.
Man, it's been a pleasure to have you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Really nice.
Guys, if you want to get a hold of Shane and learn more about the success that he's having in real estate, but also maybe to have a conversation. Shane reached out to me and invited me to lunch, and we had a chance to talk and ask me some questions I was able to pour into him. And if you want to get a hold of Shane and maybe talk to him and ask him some questions, I'm sure Shane would take that call, wouldn't you, Shane?
All day.
Awesome. Reach out to Shane. Shane is an incredible agent. He's doing some incredible things, and he's an amazing human being. So again, thank you, Shane. If you guys are loving the show, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And if you're really loving the show, leave us a review. Feel free to follow us on social media at The Official Justin Ford. Again, at The Official Justin Ford. And I do want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Next Door Lending. Next Door Lending is not just a lender that sponsors the show. This is who we use for all of our real estate agents and our buyers that we work with. They have over 1,000 5-star reviews, a perfect A+ Better Business Bureau rating. And if you want to refinance your home and take some cash out, call my friends over at Next Door Lending. If you are looking to get pre-approved this year and purchase a home, call my friends over at Next Door Lending. And if you're a real estate agent and you're looking to partner with a great lender licensed in over 24 states, call my friends over at Next Door Lending today at 888-885-3667 or visit their website at nextdoorlending.com. 2 things I always like to leave you with. Number 1, it's not how you start. What matters is how you finish. And number 2, with God, all things are possible. God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.